There's a specific kind of judgment that comes with driving an old, beat-up car in this country. People look at it and assume something's going wrong in your life. They assume you're struggling, that you couldn't afford something better, that maybe things aren't going well for you financially. And I want to flip that entire assumption on its head today, because in a lot of cases, the person driving that old, slightly rough-looking car is actually making one of the smartest financial decisions of anyone on the road, while everyone judging them is quietly drowning in a payment they can barely afford. Let's start with what a car actually is financially, because this gets misunderstood constantly. A car is not an investment. It is not an asset that grows in value over time like a house or a stock portfolio. From the moment you drive a new car off the lot, it starts losing value, and it keeps losing value every single year you own it, regardless of how well you take care of it. A new car typically loses somewhere around 20% of its value in the first year alone, and by year 5. It's often worth only around 40% of what you originally paid for it. That's not a small loss. That's the majority of the car's value simply evaporating over time, no matter how careful or responsible the owner is. Now here's where the beater comes in, and why it flips this entire equation in your favor. A car that's already 10 or 15 years old has already done the vast majority of its depreciating. It's already dropped from its original price down to a small fraction of that, and now it's sitting in this relatively stable zone where the value drops much more slowly year over year. When you buy a car like that, you're essentially stepping into ownership after someone else already absorbed the steepest, most painful part of the depreciation curve. You're not the one losing thousands of dollars in value the moment you drive off the lot, because that already happened to somebody else years before you ever got involved. Let's talk real numbers here, because I want this to actually land. Say you buy a reliable used car for $8,000 instead of financing a new car at $35,000. That's a $27,000 difference right there, before we even talk about interest or ongoing payments. If you took that $27,000 difference and invested it instead, at an average return of 8% a year, in 15 years that difference alone grows to roughly $85,000. That's not from some genius investment strategy. That's simply the result of not buying a car you didn't actually need and letting that money grow instead of watching it drive away in the form of a depreciating asset. Now let's talk about the payment itself, because this is where the real damage happens for most people, and it's damage that compounds every single month for years. The average new car payment right now runs somewhere around $600 to $700 a month, often stretched across 6 or 7 years to keep the payment looking manageable on paper. Over that loan term, between the payments and the interest, people frequently end up paying $45,000 to $50,000 total for a car that's worth maybe half that by the time they've actually paid it off. Compare that to a reliable used car bought outright for cash with no payment at all, and the difference over just a handful of years is genuinely staggering when you actually add it up. Here's something people don't talk about enough, which is the ripple effect that a car payment has on every other part of someone's financial life. When $600 or $700 a month is locked into a car payment, that's money that can't go toward retirement contributions, can't build an emergency fund, can't go toward paying off higher interest debt. It's not just the direct cost of the car itself, it's the opportunity cost of everything that money could have been doing instead, month after month, year after year, for as long as that loan continues. Now, I want to be fair here, because driving a beater isn't free of trade-offs, and pretending otherwise wouldn't be honest. Older cars can come with higher maintenance costs. They might need a new alternator, a transmission repair, or other unexpected fixes that a brand new car under warranty simply wouldn't require. But here's the thing worth understanding clearly. Even a genuinely bad year of repairs, say $1,500 or $2,000 in unexpected work, is still dramatically less than a single year of new car payments, which often adds up to $7,000 or $8,000 or more once you include interest. So even in a worst-case repair scenario, the math still tends to favor the older car by a significant margin. There's also a mindset shift that happens once you're not carrying a car payment And I think this matters just as much as the actual numbers we've been discussing. When you don't have a monthly payment hanging over you, you stop feeling pressure to keep that car looking pristine or perfect. A small door ding doesn't feel like a crisis. A little wear on the interior doesn't bother you the way it might if you were making payments on something that's supposed to still look brand new. There's a kind of freedom in driving something that's already fully paid for, where the worst thing that can realistically happen is a repair bill. Not a lender calling you or a repossession threat hanging over your head. Let's also address the social pressure piece directly, because it's honestly a huge part of why people avoid driving older cars in the first place, even when it would clearly be the smarter financial move. There's this deeply ingrained idea that what you drive somehow reflects your success or your worth as a person. But here's the truth that matters far more than any of that. Nobody sees your bank account. Nobody sees your investment portfolio, your retirement savings, or your actual net worth when you pull up next to them at a red light. They just see a car, and drawing conclusions about someone's real financial situation from the car they happen to be driving is genuinely one of the least reliable ways to judge anything meaningful about a person's actual finances. In fact, a lot of the wealthiest people, the ones who've actually built real substantial net worth over time, tend to drive remarkably unremarkable cars. Precisely because they understand that a vehicle is a depreciating expense, not a status symbol worth pouring money into. Meanwhile, plenty of people driving brand new luxury vehicles are doing so on loans they can genuinely barely afford, financing an image instead of building any actual underlying wealth behind it. So, what does this actually mean for you, sitting here right now? If you're currently financing an expensive car and struggling to keep up with retirement contributions or building any kind of savings, it's genuinely worth asking yourself honestly whether that car is actually serving your life or whether it's quietly working against everything else you're trying to build financially. And if you're driving an older, slightly rough around the edges car right now, and you felt even a little bit of embarrassment about that, I want you to reconsider that entire feeling. That car might actually be one of the smartest financial decisions in your entire life, quietly working in your favor every single month, even if nobody else driving past you would ever guess it. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't built by what you drive. It's built by what you don't spend, and by what you consistently do instead with the money you didn't hand over to a car dealership. The beater isn't a sign that something's going wrong. In a lot of cases, it's actually a quiet sign that someone finally figured out what actually matters.